Welcome to the Raven Space on YouTube. My name is Jason, and this is Raven Space Mailbag, where we answer your questions about the Baltimore Ravens. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Sorry there's been a lack of videos lately. My computer was broken. I've got a new one, so we're going to get started. We're going to hop right into it. Thank you guys so much. Please put your questions in the comments below, and we'll use them for next video. So let's go on to the very first question of the day, and it comes from Alex, and Alex asked, with yet another injury, is it time to move on from Jimmy Smith? Thank you so much for your question, Alex. And I think it's time for the Ravens. It's time for Ravens fans. It's time for all of us to have a heart-to-heart, a real, honest heart-to-heart, because Jimmy Smith has shown us he's injury-prone, and we need consistency out of our cornerback position. Now, he's a great cornerback. Awesome cornerback, right? And I think that he's a special player from the sense that he has a special size, and he's very, very adept to the system now. But your best ability is availability. Okay, it doesn't matter how fast you are, how good you can catch or defend. If you can be out there, especially at the end of the season where the games are more important, you're a liability. I think the Ravens should try to get some trade value from Jimmy Smith. If you can trade Jimmy Smith for a second-round pick and a good player, I think you should do that. The player won't be great because, you know, that's not how trades work. But a good player, I think Jimmy Smith's a great player when healthy. So a good player and a pick, I would be happy with that. But if we lose him for nothing, like if we cut him or something, I don't think that would be good. I don't think that would be good at all. So we'll see what the Ravens do. We'll see what Ozzie does. But we do have capable cornerbacks. Tavon Young, before he was injured, was a great cornerback. In my opinion, last year, he was the best quarterback on the team. You have Maurice Kennedy, who has been playing that slot position very, very effectively. And I've been impressed every time I see him play. Marlon Humphrey, we're going to talk about him a little bit later. He's good too, but he has some issues right now. But he'll be an NFL corner in a year or two. And then you have Brandon Carr, who had a couple of tough games, but that Detroit Lions game, he played awesome. He played great. So I think that I really do think that it may be time to move on from Mr. Jimmy Smith. Thank you so much for the question. We're going to move on to our second question of the day. It comes from Joseph, and Joseph asked, will Marlon Humphrey be good enough to stay effective throughout the end of the season? Thank you so much for your question, Joseph. And my answer is yes. He is young, so you will see pains. We saw with the Lions that when he comes up against a receiver, then every cornerback has a weakness, right? I mean, I can only remember two cornerbacks that I thought didn't have any weakness out there. One is Deion Sanders, and the other one is Darrelle Revis. Those are the only two cornerbacks in their prime where I thought no weakness. They can run every play. They can stick any person. Doesn't matter what the size is. Doesn't matter what the speed is. So Marlon Humphrey, it looks like that from the first game so far that big, strong receivers give him some trouble. You guys saw him struggle against Marvin Jones when Jimmy Smith went out. Now, again, let's be real to Marlon Humphrey. He doesn't play that position as often as he plays the other side of the field, which does matter, especially for a rookie. Even in college, he played left cornerback. So to be on the right cornerback side, it's a little bit different. So he's a fine player. He'll be there. He'll be ready, and he'll be good to go. I just want everyone to be aware that it's going to take some time, but hopefully the Ravens can win these next games, and he'll be thrown in the fire, and he comes out on the other side, and we'll see. Now we're going to go into the next question from Nathan, and Nathan's question is, was Joe Flacco's game versus the Lions a one-off, or are we catching fire? Thank you so much for your question, Nathan. My brain says a one-off, but when I looked at the film, it wasn't like people were breaking tackles. It wasn't like receivers were making incredible catches. It wasn't like, the receivers are doing, the offensive line was protecting at a way better level. The only difference was Joe Flacco played better, right? So it's all on Joe Flacco. If Joe Flacco plays better, then we win, right? The running game did perform well, so I'll give some juice to the running game. That could have helped Joe Flacco out, but Joe Flacco just played his best game of the season, and I think that if he raises his level, you'll see Mike Wallace, Jeremy Maclin raise their level, offensive line raise their level, and then anything could happen. Now, if receivers are dropping the passes, which they did drop some last week as well, that's going to be a bad thing. But I truly do believe that if Joe Flacco raises his level, we can raise our level as a team. So I think it's all on Joe Flacco, and he'll be the answer, whether it was one-off or whether it's a fluke. I think he has the talent. He just has to put it together. And I'm ready to see what happens, to be honest. Now, the last question, and this question comes from Joyce, and the question is, will Kenneth Dixon be on the team next year? Thank you so much for your question, Joyce. And I would say it's going to be a little tougher for him to make the team than it was. Coming into this year, many people thought he was the best back on the roster. Going into next year, everyone will think that he will be at least the third best back on the roster. I don't care what you guys saw from him before. A year away from football makes you worse. That is a true statement. Look at a player like Martavius Bryant, right? Time away from football makes you worse, right? You might be healthier, but you're not in football shape. You haven't been dealing with the day in and day out conditioning, and you're not at football game speed. So you have two running backs, Alex Collins and Buck Allen, who have been playing excellent. I mean, I don't care what you say. They might not start on every team in the league, but they make every roster on every team in the league right now. Even if they're the second or third back, they're performing that well right now. I'm not really a fan of Kenneth Dixon. I think he's right now acting like a knucklehead, and that's not good for a team. And unless he's uber talented, and he's just not that great of a player. You put up with Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham. You put up with Ezekiel Elliott because they're the best, right? And it just what it is. You put up with a Gronkowski, even though he made a really bonehead play, because he is the best. You don't do that for this guy. So I think it matters. It's going to be a competition between him and Danny Woodhead. That's what the competition is between. If Buck Allen's not on this team next year, I will be very upset. But if that's what the competition between Danny Woodhead and Kenneth Dixon and whoever the Ravens like more will be on the team. I think Danny Woodhead will be on the team. Kenneth Dixon is still young enough to be on the practice squad, I believe. So I believe he'll be on the practice squad if they want to keep him. So that is the end of today's show. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Again, sorry about the lack of videos. I had an issue, hardware issue, but it's fine now. Thank you guys so much. Please subscribe to the Ravens Space on YouTube for the best Baltimore Ravens content on the internet. Thank you guys so much, and go Ravens.